Hello everyone, it's Rabbi Chaitovsky here. Welcome to another video Dvar with me from my office at BMH-BJ. Well, we're in the middle of the story of the Exodus from Egypt, and we're actually at the high point of the story. Moses has warned Pharaoh about the imminent doom of what we know to be the final plague, and then the narrative in this week's Torah portion, the Torah portion of Bo, takes a little digression. Moses instructs the Jewish people about the ins and outs of the Karban Pesach, the Passover sacrifice. That will be their meal. And he instructs them about what we call the Seder Mitzrayim, the Egyptian Seder, which is the model for our Seder. And he begins the digression with what essentially is the very, very first mitzvah given to the Jewish people as a nation. And that mitzvah has to do with a very important concept of time. When you're a slave, you don't have control over your time. And to demonstrate freedom, one of the ways to do that is to demonstrate your mastery and control over your time. And the first mitzvah, the first pronouncement that God tells Moses to share with the Jewish people is at the very beginning in chapter 12 in the Torah portion. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe v'el Aharon be'eretz Mitzrayim lemor. God said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Mitzrayim, in the land of Egypt, where they had no control over their time. HaChodesh hazeh lachem rosh chadashim. This month you are going to consider to be the first of all the months. Rishon hu lachem l'chodshei hashana. This will be the first month of the calendar year. Now we know that the month of Nisan, which is the month that the Jews emerged from Egypt, it is considered a first month. There are multiple first months. We know that Tishrei, when Rosh Hashanah comes, is also a first month, and actually it is the first month of the calendar year. But Nisan, for the Israelites, for the Jewish people, was sort of like July for Americans. It is the month in which we achieved our freedom, July 4th, 1776. The 14th and 15th of Nisan is the date on which we achieved our freedom, and it's the date on which we designate as our birth as a people. The Jewish people were born and recognized officially on that day. And it's interesting that why the month of Nisan may have been chosen. The obvious choice for Nisan is because that's when things are happening. The Israelites emerge as their own national, with their own national identity during that month as they exit from 2 centuries of slavery. But there is something about Nisan also that makes it extra special and extraordinarily appropriate to be the first month of the year. And as I said, this is the first mitzvah given to the Jewish people to sanctify this month, to sanctify all months, to follow the lunar calendar. The concept of Rosh Chodesh grows out of this, and we know of the rabbinic mitzvah of saying Hallel on Rosh Chodesh. It all grows out of these particular verses in chapter 12 of our Torah portion. What is special about Nisan? Well, Tishrei, when Rosh Hashanah comes, we know that it's sort of ensconced as part of the agricultural cycle of the year. And if we would mark the beginning of our year then, and in many ways we do, of course, but if that was the time when God said, this is going to be your month, there may not be something as special about that, because it's sort of a natural. We're involved in the natural cycle during that time of the year. Nisan, however, coming on the heels of all of the things going on in Egypt, the plagues, the obvious demonstration of God's power. Nisan sort of becomes a representation of almost a supernatural timeline and a supernatural context for the control of time. And it's because of God's demonstration in Egypt of God's control and God's power, God reaching out to us and saying, you're going to be my people as I'm going to be your God. Nisan becomes the very special month in which we become a people, and on which, the first day of which, God says, you're going to sanctify this month. This is where your journey really begins, with this month of Nisan. So it's a very, very special idea that we have control over our time. It's not simply a natural thing, although we take it for granted. There's a supernatural element to it. We participate in this process. We sanctify the new month, the new moon every month, and it's almost a partnership between ourselves and God. So just a little idea about what it means to be free and have control of our time. And we have to make time for the things that are important to us, for God, for family, for friends, for Torah, and of course, for Judaism, and of course, every week for Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.